Hey guys, Allie Vogt again with Blanchard Insurance. We're back with Mike Tonsetic, our president and CEO, for a couple more market updates. There's been a lot going on in the insurance world lately. Mike, do you want to kind of explain to us what's going on with Gulfstream Insurance Carrier?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Allie. Uh, all I can say is another one bites the dust. It's scary. I feel bad for I think it's, what was it, 50,000 homeowners being dropped and being non-renewed and possibly put into receivership. I think we're at that point. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it is nothing new in Florida. I mean, I think actually a good majority of homeowners in Florida have probably been through this, if not once, a couple times, going all the way back to 2006 when this epidemic really started happening. And back then, I mean, it was all related to the hurricanes of 2004 and 2005, and the market in 2006. I mean, a lot of major companies, you're talking about like USAA, who non-renewed pretty much unless you were active duty in Florida. They non-renewed everybody. So that included, primary residents. It included secondary homes, which USA has a lot with snowbirds and rental properties. And then you started seeing State Farm taking so much rate that they were losing clients. And that was kind of their position. And then when you get into regional and domestic companies like Gulfstream, you started seeing the impact on them. I mean, we saw one of our major carriers, which was Vanguard Fire and Casualty at the time, they folded up and became Security First. You saw companies like Northern Capital and Landmark go under. I mean, Coral Insurance Company, Sawgrass. I mean, I can't even name them all. And then recently, and then that kind of stopped. I mean, we got into kind of a soft market. We had a lot of years without a lot of storms, and then when we started getting into this very difficult market, when you're starting incorporating not only the hurricanes of Irma, Michael, and everything else, Matthew, and then you started compromising that almost to a degree and coupling up with all this hail fraud litigation and water litigation and everything else, people taking advantage of the system, then you have another round of companies going under. And one of the big ones was Florida Specialty a couple of years back, which they lost they had about 80,000 homeowners insured through Florida. And we could see that coming about 2 years out because, I mean, their rates were absolutely ridiculous. They were undercutting the market so much. And that's what we call in the industry as adequate premium. And a lot of people don't understand that if a company is not taking enough premium in initially, they cannot account to pay for your claim. So to give you a clear example, let's say your homeowner's insurance is $1,000 per year, and the likelihood that you're going to have, let's say, a $5,000 water claim in 5 years, well, guess what? They're taking enough money in to just break even 5 years down the road. If for example, they were charging $500, well, guess what? They're probably going to have a $2,500 shortage. Now, when you start doing that times, 50 or 80,000 clients, you can't pay any of your claims. And that's a very big problem in Florida. And I think what had happened was Florida, contrary to popular belief, is very consumer minded, consumer protective, and very biased for the consumer. And you can see that on any, lawyer billboard, across the state of Florida. But what I'm getting at is, a lot of times these companies kind of fly under the radar because they want fair market competition in Florida. So what happened with Gulfstream is the same thing. They got into financial trouble. They weren't carrying enough policyholder surplus. The reinsurance wasn't where it needed to be. And guess what? They folded. The state deemed them that, hey, you're not fiscally responsible to do business in Florida, especially, and they look at this usually on January 1st of every year. And then they start looking at it again going into hurricane season because they want to make sure a company can survive a probably pretty heavy storm season that we're going to have this year. So again, they're going to receivership. Now, what the client should expect, they should expect a letter from either their insurance agent or directly from Gulfstream Insurance Company, or they might even get something from what we call the Florida Insurance Guarantee Association, which a lot of people don't know this, but if you have a company that's admitted in the state of Florida, meaning they abide by all the regulations, they are reviewed by the state of Florida and whatnot, and that goes into like Demotech. But when they're admitted like that, they are backed by the Florida Insurance Guarantee Association, not Citizens. This is completely separate. So if you do get non-renewed, nobody picks you up, or there's no new company involved, you do have coverage in there. I mean, you're gonna have to pay your deductible and whatnot, but you do have insurance coverage. So if something does catastrophic happen, you are insured. But my recommendation is, if you got to remember, if there's 50,000 people and there's a lot of damage out there during a hurricane, then, guess what? You're waiting in line. So as soon as you get those letters, you probably want to jump ship really quickly and get with a new insurance company. And, because a lot of the times those policies that go into the Guarantee Association will actually transition back over to Citizens. And in my opinion, probably Citizens is not the best place anybody wants to be right now, since they're writing about 6,000 policies a week or whatever ridiculous amount it is. So guess what? If a hurricane comes through and you don't want to be number 6,001 in line, in regards to getting a claim paid. But that's kind of how it works. So just to let everybody know out there, if you are Gulfstream, don't panic, call your insurance agent, call a new insurance company, call us, get advice, we'll walk you through the process. And again, this is nothing new. It just unfortunately happens in Florida. And like I said, I've seen this happen probably about 20 times in my career.
You'll probably see it again.
She will.
Well, perfect. Thank you for the update on that. I know that there's a bunch of people out there who are going to be getting those letters and probably panicking a little, but no need. We can help.
Absolutely.
Give us a call. But then there's another carrier that we're seeing some changes with, not going into receivership or anything, but with pulling out of certain territories in the state. Do you want to go over what's happening with Universal?
Yeah, absolutely. Universal Property and Casualty, and a lot of people and a lot of homeowners in Florida have probably actually even heard of this company. And that's because they've been around forever in Florida. Mm-hmm. They are the largest homeowners insurance company in Florida by far. I think they're at about $1.5 billion in assets in Florida. And that's remarkable. I mean, they're not a national carrier. They are huge in Florida, and predominantly most of their business is focused in Florida. It always has been. And they're not just in Florida though now too. They're in about 20 other states, as far as Hawaii, I believe, as far as they go. So they're not as big as in those states, but they are huge in Florida. And for as long as I've known them, I mean, they're really good at insuring things that not everybody wants to insure. So sometimes older roofs, sometimes in high risk areas along the coastlines, and they are the king of condo insurance in Florida. I mean, I can't imagine how many condos they insure, but if you were to go to knock on any a condo owner's door, every other one would be insured through Universal. Now, this is not surprising either, because there is, with all the other companies being very restrictive, or you have companies like Gulfstream going out of business and other companies who have drastically cut back on the amount of risk that they're willing to take on in Florida and pulling back from the coastlines, whether it's your high value companies like Chubb, who are doubling the rates in Florida and they don't want any coastal exposure, or whether it's a company like, for example, I'm trying to think of another couple off the top of my head, but Tower Hill. Tower Hill is like really restrictive now in Central Florida. And so it's nothing new that they're being restrictive in Central Florida. United Property and Casualty, another one. I mean, just, very restrictive right now because they can't afford to take that much more loss that they've been hit with. And again, it's not hurricane loss that's reinsured. It's none of that. It's all the stuff with the litigation and the roofs and the water damage claims, where your average roof claim went from $10,000 up to $100,000, and the fact that 1 in 5 hail claims in Florida winds up in court. I mean, they just can't afford that anymore. So it's not surprising. But if this was January 1st, you would not see this happening. So what's happening is you're seeing, okay, well, now we're in hurricane season. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty busy season when we have our tropical storm barreling down on us right now. So the question
to a hurricane, actually.
Really? Wow.
Yep, Hurricane Elsa's coming.
That snuck up on us, and that's not good. So when you couple that with, all the losses already taken outside of the hurricanes, they're looking at it going like, even a $1.5 billion company in Florida can be shaken. and they want to make sure that they are properly, they're not improperly exposed. Because you got to remember, not only is like our agency, like Blanchard, sending a lot of business to Universal over the last 6 months, because a lot of other insurance companies have pulled out and are not writing business, but take on every other agent in Florida, because Universal, I mean, pretty much any agent in Florida represents Universal Property and Casualty, and they always have. We have since day one. Farmers agents represent them. All state agents represent them. I even think, to a degree, some State Farm agents represent them. So everybody has been shoving all this business onto the shoulders of Universal over the last 6 months. So no wonder they're at capacity. I mean, the same thing is going on with Citizens. If it's not going to Universal, it's going to Citizens Insurance Company. So even companies this size, which are number 1 and 2, Citizens being number 2, it's just, you can only lift so much. So what they're doing is, and most of that business is coming into Central Florida, where all the problems are, in regards to hail or home age and, lawsuits and whatnot. So it's basically like South Florida and Central Florida is where no companies want to write business. If you're probably up in the Panhandle or Jacksonville or something like that, Universal's still going to write your policy. It's just shut down in this core area of the I-4 corridor right now. And will that continue on? It could continue on throughout hurricane season. I mean, could January 1st turn around and be a completely different story? Absolutely. But it's just what happens.
Or, I mean, there's always something, right?
Yeah,
In the
yeah.
insurance world,
You're going to
there's always-
see, unfortunately, the reform that was just passed. I know we talked about this in a previous interview, but I don't think it's going to have that much impact here in Central Florida. I mean, I know we were talking about this last time, but on the way to work today, I saw 3 roofing billboards. Hey, call a claim. And guess what? Once these hurricanes get on their way and we have an afternoon storm like we've been having for the last 2 weeks, guess what? That's the hail fraud and everything else is going to exponentially increase. And I don't think the reform and all that legislation really has done anything to curb it. So I don't really blame a company like Universal Property and Casualty for kind of saying, look, we're being smart about this. If we take on any more, we could get into trouble. Let's protect the clients that we have now. So if you're with Universal Property Casualty, you should probably be happy that they are making that strategic move.
That was going to be my next question. So currently, people who are currently insured with them, they're not getting non-renewed. They're not getting canceled. They're maintaining their current clients. They're just not accepting new ones.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Universal, I mean, they've done it very intelligently over the last couple decades. I mean, they did diversify into other states, and a lot of it's usually the opposite. Like you'll have a company like State Farm or USAA or Allstate and whatnot, where they have their company for their other 49 states, and then Florida is a separate company. And the reason they do that is because they're like, well, if Florida goes bust again, it's not going to affect the rest of the country. Well, I think Universal was very smart when they just decided, look, Florida gets hit so hard. Let's go into other states, like let's say, looking at their list here, Illinois or Hawaii, well, Delaware, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, that don't really get as hit as hard as Florida. And they took on a lot of clients there so they can help balance out the amount of risk that they're getting in Florida. Because guess what? A Cat 5 hits Florida and they have 75% of their clients in, like, let's say one hurricane season get impacted. And those other states, they're offsetting that loss, which I think is very intelligent. And not a lot of companies have done it to the degree that they have. And I know everybody looks at the top, and people who are with Universal questioning, like, well, is being with the bigger company that bad? Well, yes, of course, you're going to go online and see, bad reviews, and the largest insurance companies get hit the hardest with the most worst reviews. Reason being, they have the most clients on the books, so statistically, you're always going to have like worse reviews. Does sometimes it slow down the claims process, especially if you have a very catastrophic event and they have to bring in claims adjusting houses from out of state and adjusters and whatnot. Of course. So being the biggest sometimes is not the best. But then again, on the flip side is they probably have the most money and probably can afford to pay out your claim, and they're not going to go under like a company like Gulfstream Insurance Company. So you got to pick your battles with the both, and you got to look at their longevity. They've been in the Florida market forever. Not a lot of companies can say that. I'm talking, you can maybe say that about ASI, Progressive, Florida Family, and probably Frontline really have that longevity. So that is something I urge people to think about when choosing an insurance company. If the insurance company only has a track record in Florida for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's public information, you can look it up. That's scary to me. So I kind of rather be with the biggest company who's been around for 20 years.
Absolutely, it makes a lot of sense. They have the track record to prove success. Anything else you want to touch on with those, or?
No, I just hope everybody stays safe out there during this storm season, and of course, this information always give Allie, the office, give me a call. We can talk about this all day. We're very transparent in the way we do business and what our opinions are and what we think of the insurance industry. We're not here to just sell you junk, like a used car dealership. We're here to be your advocates and give you this type of information, so you are having a value to the insurance policy you're buying.
Absolutely. And like Mike said, if you have any questions, or if you're with Gulfstream and you need a new policy, give us a call. Our information is on the screen, and office number is 407-788-8640, or visit us at blanchardinsurance.com. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Allie.